All right, welcome, Sylvia. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Okay, so I know a lot about the work you do, and I just feel like you're a rock star. But can you introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Yes, I am Sylvia Emokpae, and I am a pediatric sleep coach for a company called Sleep Nanny. And this means that I help lots and lots of families get their children's sleep on track because we all know how important sleep is and how much of an effect it can have on like the whole family when sleep is impaired in one person or more. And yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell.
Okay, so I love the work you do with infants. And today we're going to be talking about founders. I don't know if you've worked with infants that are founders yet, but um, but a lot of the founders that we have probably are a little bit older. So, but your I feel like your expertise on sleep and just like it still works with grown-ups. So let's dig into it. What would you
Absolutely.
say happens to a founder's brain and body when sleep is consistently being sacrificed?
I mean, first of all, we have to point out that when I'm working with infants, half of the reason that is completely valid is that not only do we want to get their sleep on track, but it is affecting the parents' like brain and their own sleep and their own things. And I have worked with lots of founders on helping their children sleep. So I know firsthand what happens to the founder's brain because not only do they tell me, I've also researched it, but if you think about like how your cognitive executive function takes the biggest hits. Like the decision making becomes impaired, creativity plummets, and emotional regulation goes out the window, not only at work, but in the family home as well. And this is catastrophic if you're trying to lead a team or making critical business decisions or even just, spending time with your family. Physically, your cortisol levels rise and they can become chronically kind of elevated, and then your immune system weakens as well, which then has a knock-on effect on your metabolism, which can slow down. And I see founders who think they're being productive by sleeping 4 or 5 hours, even voluntarily, even if they don't have children who aren't sleeping, but they're actually operating at around 60% capacity. And the irony is that better sleep would give them back so much more productive hours than the ones that they're stealing from rest. So yeah, it's crazy how much of an effect it can have.
Wow. And I really like that last statement, which is you would have more productive hours. So it might feel like fewer hours, but it's just so much more productive. So
Mm,
that's
mm.
so helpful. So, what would you say is one mistake that founder parents make that just keeps the whole house sleep deprived?
I think it's the constant stumble and catch up of work after the children have gone to bed, after a busy day and trying to just get a last couple of hours in the evening, which then pushes a founder's own bedtime later and later as the days go on, and then they become overtired and stressed and then less patient with not only at work but with their own children, and that has again a knock-on effect on their mood, and it just creates more chaos for later bedtimes for everyone. And it becomes this vicious cycle when poor sleep hygiene then cascades through like the entire family system. And then the house doesn't settle into a rhythm because their parents don't model that healthy sleep for their children either. And it just spirals over time, which is really saddening.
That sounds saddening. I mean, it sounds exhausting, and I've been there. I get that. So let's talk a little bit about solutions. What needs to happen in the body before better sleep is even possible? Before we even
Right.
start talking about, okay, let's get better sleep.
So, absolutely, when you think about what the body needs to feel like they can go into a deep rest, it's think about the nervous system. It has to shift from like the high stress, which essentially is fight or flight, to your rest and digest mode. It has to dominate in that area instead. And most founders can, or a lot of founders can get stuck in that chronic stress mode. And or, like I spoke about this before, you have the elevated cortisol, and then that can even affect your breathing. It can become more shallow, it can tense your muscles. So you literally can't access deep rest when your body thinks it's under threat, because that's basically what happens when you have that high stress level. So you have to, it means creating an intentional wind down ritual, or more than one ritual in the evening. And it addresses the underlying anxiety, sometimes like working with a bit of breath work and gentle movement to signal safety to your own nervous system. It's not, sleep isn't just about feeling tired and then going to sleep, but it's about your body also feeling safe enough to go into to a nice, good quality deep sleep.
That's so good. And I feel like that applies to even those who wake up in the middle of the night. Like you need to get yourself back into feeling that safety so you can go back to sleep. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, how can founders protect sleep when they feel like work and kids and everything is pulling at their time and their energy?
If you think about how much you prioritize the work, the kids, they're non-negotiables. So you have to think of sleep as a non-negotiable as well. It's the boundaries that you set for yourself in order to get that good quality rest have to be of seen as the boundaries, not guidelines or suggestions that you can kind of like let go of. When I've worked with founders to identify like the sleep scaffolding, so to speak, we think about two or three non-negotiable habits that protect that rest, regardless of how busy it is, how chaotic the day is going. And this might be like a hard technology cutoff, literally saying 1 hour before bed, I am no longer using a single screen for anything. Or it might be, I am going to use the screen, but I'm going to dim it and I'm going to mute the emails, the group chat notifications, the things that keep your brain awake, right? And the key is treating sleep like you would treat an important investor meeting. You wouldn't cancel it for any small emergency. So therefore, sleep needs to be just that.
Mm. Ooh, that's a tough one. You said treat
There-
sleep like an investor meeting. I
Yes,
love that. That created such a great visual in my mind. Like this is how like this is even more important than your investor meeting.
absolutely.
And it
It's
goes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's just I'm so passionate that I would carry on talking about this all day, but it really is paramount to the well-being and the results of what your you know your of your the success that will come depends on you and on being well rested for your company.
That's so good. And when we talked previously about this topic, you talked about how wellness comes before identity. I'd love you to talk
Mm.
a little bit more about that and how that applies to founders.
So most founders tie their, not all, I just generalize here, but most founders do tie their worth to their productivity and their company's success. But when your identity is hustling, I am just hustling, sacrificing, I'm just all of this, it almost like unconsciously sabotages any attempt at better self-care because it threatens who you think you are. So when you think wellness has to come first, you prove to yourself that you can be successful but and well rested, so they can be in they can work together before your brain believes that it's even possible. When you're constantly chasing and you're working, you have to convince your brain to slow down first, even if it's tempting you to carry on. You have to almost fight it and say no, let's slow down, let's work on ourselves, because then your nervous system has to feel that safety of balance before your identity can even expand to include it almost.
Mm, that's so good. And so I really enjoyed that visual of prioritizing sleep. And so now I want to ask you a question that I did not mention in the past. But when you think about it, what does that like a day that's set up for good, restful sleep? What does that look like? You mentioned a little bit about maybe an hour before you're preparing yourself for it, but like maybe some people might be like, yes, I agree. I want to prioritize sleep, but what does that look like?
It looks like saying to yourself, 1 hour before I want to rest, say if you, for example, want to rest at 10 p.m., from 9 p.m. onwards, work does not exist. It doesn't even exist. And you set up a short activity or two activities that are analog activities like reading, anything that requires perhaps a little bit of brain work, but not digitally, not that's entertaining and fast paced, and something that you can enjoy. So I worked with a founder a few weeks ago, and they started coloring in like a coloring book for adults. And that is what helps them to relax and to actually feel like their cortisol levels can come down, and they can then wind down into a much more better quality rest.
I like
It's,
that. And I love
yeah,
coloring books and journaling and all of
yeah.
that. So I'm glad that you mentioned it. It's just getting your brain to just get back to that feeling of safety. That's so
It
good.
it's funny because everyone knows this. Everyone knows what's good for them because everybody does know themselves. And if they don't, they know how to explore getting to know themselves better. The only thing that needs to change in their brain is convincing themselves and giving themselves permission to not work for an hour before bed. That's it.
Giving yourself permission because you think maybe this last thing is the thing that needs to be done. Because if it
And
doesn't
then,
get
yes, and then that last thing takes 6 hours instead of 15 minutes.
Oh, so true, so true. Like giving yourself permission because you are worth it. Because in the end, as a founder, like it's all about you being well. Oh, I love this.
Absolutely.
I love this so much. Okay. So a lot of people are talking about AI and stuff. Can you share a little bit about how you're using AI, if it's something that can help us on our wellness journey or just in general?
I think AI for my business, it helps. It's my secret weapon basically for my marketing, my social media management, email scheduling, and if I need to set up funnels, it gives me little pointers on how to set up and that it's catered to my audience, to who I am trying to reach. But as a busy sleep coach and mom, I use it as well to like mostly like brainstorm content ideas, create engaging like captions, maintain consistent posting schedules across like all my platforms. It basically helps me to repurpose my expertise into different formats. And then this can turn a lead into a client much faster than if I was doing everything organically. And then that help from AI actually helps me to really focus on what I love to do, which is actually creating bespoke packages and helping families and having that human connection. So actually, it saves me a lot of time.
Mm. And then you can sleep more as
Yes.
well. Okay, so let's talk about like one thing a founder can do today or tonight so that they can have better sleep, whether for the rest of this week or for next week. What would you say is that one thing?
Something they can start tonight is set a digital sunset. So literally just think about what you are using technically, with technologically, and cut it down. And if setting it, if turning off all your screens 1 hour earlier than usual feels like too much, start with 10 minutes less. If you are a really, really busy founder, you just want to quickly check your emails, fine, do that 10 minutes sooner than you would, and then put it down and pick up a book instead. And it's just creating a space and allowing yourself to ease into something that feels more comfortable and more relaxing than what you were doing before. It's actively reminding yourself that this is important and this is serving your company as well. And when we stick to it religiously, whatever habit you want to change, if you stick to it religiously for a week, then it will just get easier and easier as time goes on. And you will find that you naturally find other ways to pay into yourself, to fill your own cup, and to invest in your own self, because you will start to reap the benefits all over your life, in at work, in your company, in your colleagues, in your staff, in your family, in your friendships. And it will almost become addictive. Like, the more I do for myself, the more I enjoy myself, and the more I see in my children being happier, the more present I am with them, the more present I am, the more I thrive with my families that I work with. It's just a snowball effect, but it's a positive one. It's an abundant one.
I love that because what we see is often a reflection of what's happening with us internally, right? Like if the kids are more annoying today, it's probably because we're at like high alert or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. Yes. I mean, most founders, if you think about how much they're doing, they're going 100 miles an hour every day. And to go from 100 miles an hour for 12, 14, 16 hours straight into sleep, it just feels really unrealistic. And we shouldn't expect our brains to be able to do that. So we have to be really mindful in how we slow ourselves down, because otherwise it just doesn't work. So that's why the hour before bed, you can use that to transition into slowing down, relaxing, and then you'll be in a more optimal position to actually want fall asleep and stay asleep, hopefully.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And for me, I've also found like breath work to help sometimes.
Yes.
Do you find that you also coach some of your clients on using breath work to just bring themselves back into that place of safety? Because I'll just be like, breathe and make deeper breaths and all of that stuff that you experts talk about.
If you find yourself in a really stressful situation, or even if it's not the situation, you are just feeling agitated and stressed, the first thing you can do is slow down your breathing and remind yourself of where you are, of what you can see, of what you can hear, and going back to the most basics of this reality that you find yourself in. Because the noise that we often feel as founders, parents, human beings, it's in here. That breathing can help to quieten the noise, and thinking about where you are brings you back to that grounding safety, which again brings you into rest and digest mode.
So good. I could
Mm,
keep talking about this, but I'm sure someone listening to this is like, I want to connect with you. I want to talk about my infant, or I want to talk about my sleep issues. What is
mm.
the best way for them to connect with you?
Oh, I can. My Instagram is always open. I am Sleep Nanny Sylvia Emokpae on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, I believe. We can also share my email address here so that people can contact me directly as well.
That's awesome. Yes, we will share all of those details. So
Wonderful.
thank you so much, Sylvia. This has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, Asai, for having me. It's been amazing as always.